And a good Saturday morning. Thanks for joining us. We kicked the program off this morning, as we do every Saturday, with a conversation with Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, as we talk technology with Luis Alvarez. Hey, Luis, how you doing today?
I am doing terrific, Mark. How are you?
Not bad. Appreciate you joining us. And we have some pretty bold predictions here for 2014 as we're now into the new year. At least 10 of them. We can get to a few of them on the program today. So let's start off with, on the list of the top 10 predictions for tech in 2014, this comes from Mark Anderson in the Daily Beast, is that smartphones are going to get a lot cheaper, and so will tablets. So let's talk about those cheap smartphones.
Well, as we mentioned earlier when we talked about this subject, the number of devices and manufacturers of those devices are starting to multiply. And in particular, you're starting to see Chinese companies that were making these devices for American companies like Motorola or Apple start to come out with their own version of these phones and tablets, and they're going to be pricing them at significantly lesser cost because they're just going to want to try to own more of the market. And then on the tablet side, what you're seeing is really the scaling up of manufacturing, in particular in the Android devices, where the operating system that Google manufactures, the Android, is free to manufacture. So they're able to not have to worry about that cost, and instead they just have to drive down the cost of production as well as marketing. So you're going to see plenty of tablets out there in the $99 and below, and even if you're looking for a little bit beefier device, you're not going to have to look much farther than $299 or $399 to get a very nice portable device that can do everything you want it to do.
Now, where do you think this puts the PC, desktop PC, and the laptop? What happens to them this year?
Well, we've declared the PC dead, I don't know, about 20 times in the last 2 decades, so I'm reluctant to declare it dead again. But obviously last year, in 2013, we saw a pretty significant decline. I think that it was off by 10% in PC sales, and I think that trend will continue. The one mitigating factor this year is that Windows XP, which is Microsoft's premier really operating system that's dominated the market for over almost 20 years now. That operating system is going to be basically obsoleted this year, in the sense that Microsoft won't be per patches after April, which means that a lot of corporations that still have a significant number of XP machines will be upgrading. So you're going to see a little surge in PC sales, I think, because of that. But in general, the trend is pretty much baked into the future. PCs and laptops are going to give way to more powerful and
PCs and laptops would give way to more powerful what?
More powerful and more capable tablets.
Okay. Do you think that we're still going to see very much in the way of laptops, being that they do have the portability factor going for them?
Yeah, I think you're going to see laptops. It's still a form factor that people like, especially for power users. If you're a casual consumer, you can probably make do when you travel or when you're out of the house with a tablet, because it gives you access to your social media sites, your email, all the things that you would normally do on your PC at home. But if you're a business person or somebody who uses, for example, Microsoft Office applications extensively, replacing that with a tablet means just a smaller screen and harder to see. And as you get older, as you and I know, that becomes a problem. So I think laptops will still be robust in the number of sales that you see. But I think the trend is there that tablets and other smaller devices are going to be the predominant technology that people will be using in the future.
Now, 2014 is going to be the year of encryption, and this all has to do with Edward Snowden and those leaks about what the NSA has been up to.
Yeah, it was really an interesting dynamic watching the information that Eric Snowden released come out in little drips and drabs, and every time we thought we had full story, we learned that we didn't. And set aside the fact that he was able to get this information in the first place, which shocks me, having worked in the NSA for a while back in my military life, how easy he got access to some of this stuff. But regardless, the information he's provided has really told private business in particular that what they thought was safe isn't safe. And the only way they're going to be able to maintain that level of anonymity and that protection for their clients is going to be to use encryption, and use an encryption system that is tough and hard to decrypt, if not impossible to decrypt. So I think a lot more attention is going to be paid to encryption at every level. I even think smaller companies that are concerned about protecting their data will be using encryption much more significantly this year.
You know what I think is interesting in looking at that article was that they said that as far as encryption goes, that it'll be a real benefit for consumers and also for businesses, because there are so many of these hacks that we read about actually are state-run hacks by China and other adversaries of ours around the world. And so this may end up, this whole move to encryption and more encryption may end up thwarting a number of those attempts. And maybe there'll be less of the kind of thing that we found out about a few weeks ago about all those PIN numbers and debit cards and credit cards that were stolen from Target.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real wake-up call for the consumer to realize just how at risk they have been at every level. And you're right, protect ourselves more. And in a way, it's kind of like living in a small community where everybody leaves the door unlocked and never locks their cars. And then you have somebody gets robbed in that neighborhood. And from that point on, people are locking their doors, they're buying alarm systems. They recognize that they aren't as safe as they once thought. And I think that's the response and the reaction that you're going to see with this NSA metadata story, that people are just going to be more concerned about their privacy and protecting themselves.
Great point. Hey, one other thing about protecting yourself and your privacy. I heard this over the weekend on Kim Commando, program that we carry here on KION. Maybe you're familiar with her. But
absolutely.
They were talking about the fact that a number of, we could be talking, large ISPs and content providers like Google and so forth, that when let's say you're typing an email in your email program, right? And you're typing out a note to someone, and maybe you start, let's say you're angry, right? And you're writing, I'm going to do this and blah, the whole thing like that. And then before you decide to hit send, you go back and you read it over and you say, that's a little intemperate. I need to soften it. You go through and you edit it so that it's not so bad. Still makes your point, but makes it in a nicer way, right?
Yep.
And then you hit send. But what was revealed is that your original keystrokes are stored by that content provider, the one providing you with the email service, and they actually have your original sentence structure. And then you think about the NSA and these other organizations, government organizations looking at our emails and so forth. You could end up getting flagged for something you never even sent.
That's absolutely true. If you've used you use a host-based email system like Google Gmail, where rather than downloading the email to your PC or your laptop and responding via Outlook, you're actually typing into the service itself, whether it's Yahoo or AOL or Gmail. Everything is recorded, even the backspaces and everything else that you do. It's just a function of the way those systems work. It's not really designed intentionally to capture that information. That's just the way it works. And so you are at risk if you use those sorts of systems. That's why we recommend that if you're using Gmail or one of those email systems, that you still use an email client that's local to your laptop or your PC and connect in the back end. So that way you only send what you intend to send.
Or if you can't do that for one reason or another, isn't the other workaround, Lewis, compose your emails like in a Word doc, then copy and paste what you want to send onto the email and then hit send?
Yeah, that's probably a good practice anyway. At least you get the grammar checking that comes with Word or whatever word processor you're using, and you get to send something with a little bit more thought into it.
And I've always done that, been doing that for a while, because one of the things I notice is that when you're typing in that hosted space, you ever notice how much slower it is? It's going through all these different layers, and so you'll hit a keystroke, and it takes like a second or so for it to show up. Sometimes it really lags, and you're like, God, this is just awful. I'm not able to see what I'm doing. So I stopped doing it that way, and I started composing all of my emails on Microsoft Word, and most hardly ever save anything. Unless it's like I'm sending out a billing notice to someone for some work that I've done. Yeah, then I preserve that. I actually send it as an attachment. But my run-of-the-mill emails, I will not save that information. I copy and paste it onto the hosted client, and then I send it.
If that works for you, then that's a good system. But I do agree that rather than trying to type everything into the screen when you're on Gmail or Yahoo Mail or whatever, that you do it offline.
Yep, good point. See, and we got to know. I don't think the average person knows that.
No,
I don't think we have any
something that you don't
idea
really think about.
how we're being tracked.
Yeah.
All right, we've got a few more minutes here. Let's take a look at a few other things that are predicted to happen in 2014 in the world of tech. This is out of the Daily Beast, and Luis Alvarez Technology Group, is commenting for us this morning. Visualization is going mainstream. What are we talking about here, Luis?
They're really talking about is the idea that you are going to be able to use data in a much more different way than you're using it now. We have these systems that have collected huge amounts of data on everything that we do, say, act, track, history. And what do they say? Every 18 months, we double the amount of data that we've created since, the dawn of man, dawn of our civilization. So it's amazing the amount of information that we're collecting. And what this concept called big data that uses cloud computing. So computing power in the cloud rather than trying to put it on your PC or your laptop or your tablet or whatever. You can use that power to now slice and dice data in a much more effective way. We kind of do it already. When you think about when you go to Google or any search engine and you type in a search string and it's able to parse that and give you results that say, here are the most likely things that you're looking for. And I would venture to say that probably, better than 90% of the time, one of the top 3 things that it pulls up is exactly what you're looking for. You don't think about the power behind the ability to do that. How does this computer know that that's exactly what I'm looking for? Well, multiply that effect by 1 million and you have really what big data is all about. And this has to do with things like IBM's Dr. Watson system that's helping hospitals diagnose patients now. It has to do with some of the big data engines that Amazon.com uses to make sure that when you order something that it's delivered to your door the next day, or unless it's Christmas, in which case, all bets are off apparently. So that kind of power is now coming into the consumer's hands. It's going to be available to you on your smartphone or your tablet.
All right. Do you have a prediction for something you think will happen in tech in 2014?
My big prediction is going to be that people are going to be bombarded more than ever by micro-targeted advertising. A lot of the technology that we've talked about over the years has been kind of being personalized to the point where, and you and I have complained about this before, when you're on a search engine and you search for something, it seems to follow you forever after that. Now, imagine if you're on your computer, on your tablet, and you do a search on, let's say, a pair of gloves that you're interested in buying, and then you go to the store and it immediately recognizes who you are and it starts talking to you or pop-up advertising on LCD panels in the store say, hey, Lewis, those gloves you were looking for, they're available over in the men's department. How does it know that I was looking for gloves and how did it track me to that store?
Face recognition technology.
Yeah, that kind of thing is going to become so prevalent by the end of this year that we're just going to accept it as a fact of life.
That's why you want to put a picture of your dog in your profile picture.
There you go.
All right. Hey, Lewis, thanks so much for joining us. I hope you have a great rest of the weekend.
You too, my friend.
All right. It's Luis Alvarez. The technology group is Alvarez Technology. It's alvareztg.com and the toll-free number for the I-Team.
Call us at 866-78-I-Team. That's 866-784-8326. We look forward to helping you with whatever you need.
Thanks, Lewis.
Take care.